Welcome back everyone. So today we're going to look at the Lyra Aquacolor water-soluble pastels. I've had these on my wish list for quite a while and I ended up getting them for Christmas last year. So I'm excited to try these all out. They are supposedly quite comparable to the Caran D'Ache Neocolor IIs. So I wanted to check these out and maybe see if we can compare them a little bit just to see how similar and different they are to the Caran D'Ache. Okay, so here's the back of the packaging. So it has all of the colors swatched out. There's no Lightfast ratings for any of these crayons for the different colors, but it does say that they're a water-soluble pastel, and I looked on their site and they mentioned that they're a water-soluble wax pastel. The Caran D'Ache site says that the Caran D'Ache Neocolors are a water-soluble wax and oil pastel, even though this just says wax. On their site it says wax oil pastel, so that was interesting. They also say they are highly pigmented and that they have high lightfastness. So the Caran D'Ache Neocolors I thought were a little more lightfast than they are. They have a rating from 1 star to 3 stars depending on how lightfast they are, and it's from good to excellent. So they're probably pretty comparable, I would say, with lightfastness. I may do a couple of tests with the ones that I own just to see, but other than that there's no more information on here about the lightfastness of these crayons. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and swatch all these out, and then we'll come back and take a look at the swatches and then maybe run a couple of little tests and experiments with comparing the Caran D'Ache and the Lyra to see how they both react. Okay, see you soon. So here are our beautiful swatches from the Lyra Aquacolor 48 set. They were a pleasure to swatch. I just included some of the swatching because there's, a lot of colors, so I thought you might get a little bored watching it all. But it was definitely very relaxing to swatch these out. And I think they are all really beautiful. I think the quality of this item is really good. It is very comparable to the Caran D'Ache Neocolor. I would say that the Caran D'Ache are probably a little smoother to apply and a little more creamy. I had to push a little harder with the Lyra Aquacolor to get the really dense color here, whereas the Caran D'Ache was a little easier to apply. On both the Lyra Aquacolor and the Neocolor, some of the pigment from different colors was still on the page, but most of it dissolved upon hitting water. So, there's a couple of colors here. I think like the Prussian blue. Actually, the Prussian blue in this set was quite hard to work with. It had kind of dried out and was a little bit crumbly. And so I think I was pushing maybe a little bit hard on this one, and that's why a lot of the pigment is sort of still here, but it still dissolved really well after that. But I think that was the only one out of the set that behaved a little weirdly. Most of the other colors performed really well. I think there's a couple in the set, maybe this light flesh and the cold light gray, that didn't have much pigment to them. But these colors are very muted and light, so that is kind of understandable. So I think maybe I needed to lay down a little more here to get more of an even wash. It didn't really pick up much of the color and bring it across here. Same with the light cool gray. It dissolved really fast, but it just doesn't have a lot of reach with the amount of pigment that you put down, and that's just because it's a really light color. So I think they're the only two that were a little iffy with that. All the other ones super vibrant and lovely. The whites compared pretty similarly with the Neocolor and the Aquacolor. I think I just didn't dissolve this one as much, so I think they're very comparable on the black, as much as coverage, still super transparent. And I would say maybe the Neocolor is a little more opaque than the Aquacolor, but not by much. So as far as color selection goes, again, the Lyra Aquacolor are very sort of bold and bright colors. We have a couple, with the grays and the ochres. These two are very similar when wetted down, but different in the dry form. So it's still useful having those two. And I tend to use my Neocolors or this kind of water-soluble crayon dry a lot. So I'll just use it to add texture, like you can see at the ends here, how it brings up the texture of the paper. So I'll use that a lot in my work. So I don't mind that these colors are similar because they are quite different when they're dry. So let's play around with these a little bit more and maybe compare the Aquacolor to the Neocolor a little bit more, just with some experiments. And then we'll come back and gather our thoughts on what we think of these two brands. Okay, so let's just do a couple of quick tests and then we'll go on to like a little speed painting just to try them out and compare them. So I thought we'd just test how far the pigment spreads when we put some on here. So I picked a couple of Lyra colors and a couple of similar Caran D'Ache colors. So try not to focus too much on the actual color, just on the performance, because I don't have exact matchups. All right, so let's lay down a little bit of pigment. So that lays down, and I'm going to do kind of like a thick swatch here, just saturate it as much as I can. Oh yeah, so the Caran D'Ache is definitely a little softer. So it's a little creamier. And then I'm just going to kind of saturate the top, and then I'm going to drag it down and just see how much pigment it carries. So I'm going to really wet this, try and pull up as much as I can, and then just pull it through. So that holds a lot of color. Let's try the Caran D'Ache. Just going to fully saturate that and then pull it through. So I would say that's pretty comparable, maybe a little more pigment in the Caran D'Ache, but pretty similar to the Lyra, and they both re-wet really easily. You can still see a little bit of the crayon in there. I didn't super work it, but that looks very similar, the amount that stayed in the paper. What test should we do next? Let's do a blending test. So let's put some color down. Which colors should we use? Let's do this plus the pink. That's gonna be a weird color, but actually let's do the Lyra first. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to lay down a swatch of the Lyra blue or turquoise, and then I'm gonna put this over the top. And as you can see, when you lay it down, it doesn't really disturb the layer underneath, but I also want to check out what that looks like when we wet it. So let's put down the Caran D'Ache. Yeah, still a little smoother. We'll put that on top. So yeah, pretty comparable. I think maybe the Caran D'Ache blends the colors together a little more than just going over the top for the Lyra. And then let's wet them and see if they mix on the paper. So I can see that dissolving the blue. So this probably wasn't a fantastic example, because it would be great if we had like a yellow and a blue so you could see a green, because this is just kind of like a muddy blue now, but it dissolved it all. So we got that out of it. Maybe I'll try another color combo. Wow, so they produced really different colors. This is more like a bit of a purpley color. The other one is a much more turquoisey, oceany, sea foam blue. So that's super interesting. Okay, so we can't concentrate too much on the color, but it did dissolve both pigments from both brands and mix them together on here, which is really nice. Let's try it on the palette. I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to put some on dry, and then I'm going to mix it together. Okay, so on the ceramic palette, this lays down not so easily. What does the Caran D'Ache do? Caran D'Ache lays down way easier on a ceramic palette. And then I'm going to mix some of the pink. So this is the Caran D'Ache. Yeah, so Caran D'Ache actually makes like a little palette that you can do your mixing on, and it has a bit of texture to it, so it really grabs hold of the crayon. I don't have one of those, but yeah, the Lyras really don't lay down well on ceramic at all. So that is interesting. They really resist that. So what if you just wanted to grab it from here and paint with it? Oh, beautiful. So that works really well. It just doesn't work putting it on a palette. Let's try the Caran D'Ache. And yep, that worked beautifully too. Okay, so that's the way to go. I wonder, you could probably use shavings of it. So use your little sharpener, and okay, I'm gonna do it. So you could do this, and then grab your sharpener and just kind of put it in at an angle and get some sharpenings here. And that would probably be able to dissolve that instead of drawing on there. Yeah, so that works well. So if you really wanted to mix a color on the palette, maybe shaving it would be the way to go. And then that works real well. All right, I wanted to try some lifting. So the Lyra looks like it lifts really well. So those colors anyway, so I haven't tried every color. And then this is the Caran D'Ache. And the Caran D'Ache lifts pretty well too. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to try is putting down some water and then seeing how the crayons draw through it. Hopefully the Lyra will work better on here than they did on the palette. this color here, the night green. Yeah, so that kind of feathers out and dissolves. And you can press super lightly. So doing it this way, the crayon seems to, the pigment seems to soak into the paper, and that's really hard to lift. That's interesting. So if it's still kind of on the surface here, you can dissolve it and move it around, but see how this here, when I sort of put pressure and drew it on into the water, it's really staying inside the paper there. So I'm putting a fair amount of water on here. Yeah, so it soaks into the paper, and then the leftover pigment on the top kind of disperses. Yeah, and the same with the Caran d'Ache. So those lines, the pigment that's kind of left over on the top moves around. Well, these might lift a little better. But this one here, I think it's probably reacting very similarly. All right, so let's do a little speed painting now to try these out in an actual piece of art. I think I'm going to do kind of like a butterfly, so one side with the Lyra and one side with the Caran d'Ache, so we can compare how differently they are to work with. And then I'll meet you back here to take a look at it. Okay, so here is our little butterfly that we painted pretty quickly, and I used the Lyra on this side and the Caran D'Ache on this side. I tried to choose pretty similar colors, and I think it looks fairly similar. I think the Caran D'Ache is a little bluer and this one's a little greener, and then I used India ink just on the outside just for fun. So yeah, overall I really think they behaved almost exactly the same, I would say. I think the only thing that was a little different was when I was doing these little touches here, it was easier to do a very light mark here with the Neocolor, whereas the Lyra, you had to press a little bit harder to get the color off, but honestly, just by a smidge. I think if you want a big sort of inexpensive set, I think going for the Aquacolor is a good way to go. The Lyra, unfortunately you can't buy open stock, and if you tend to use a large color range, this is probably your cheapest way to go with not much loss in quality. I think the Caran D'Ache maybe is a little smoother, it applies a little easier, so you're definitely paying a premium for a little bit better of a product. And the nice thing about these is they're open stock, so I think they have anywhere between 70 to 84 different colors. I think on Jackson's they have about 70 right now, so you can kind of pick and choose the colors you want. I think these run about $2 or so depending on what they're on sale, and these even out to about $1 when you buy them in the set. So I think it's, you know, personal preference in color choice for this guy, and then, you know, if you just want to have a less expensive one at almost the same quality, then the Lyra Aquacolor as you go. Do want to test the light fastness on these guys. The Caran D'Ache Neocolor actually has specific ratings for each of their colors from good to excellent, whereas the Lyra is just a blanket statement that they're light resistant, so who knows what that means. They claim that they have good light fastness, but maybe that is why these are more expensive. So I think that kind of does it for this little look at the Aquacolor and Neocolor comparison. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me for this whole exploration, and if you've watched any of my other videos, thank you so much. Really appreciate your support and building this little art community that we have. Feel free to put any comments in the comment section, and I'll put links to these guys in the description so you can visit those, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!